This Soonerscoop.com video is streaming in crystal clear 4K resolution on YouTube thanks to Enjoy Vision in Oklahoma City. There can be only one LASIK center for Sooner Scoop, and that's Enjoy Vision. Enjoy Vision. This is where Sooner Scoop LASIKs.
Enjoyed the women's basketball game yesterday?
Yeah, I mean, they beat them by 30. Yeah. Heck yeah. Boomer Sooner. It's good. It's good.
John Mateer talking to the media on Tuesday, or excuse me. Yeah, it was Tuesday.
Tuesday.
What day is today? Today's Wednesday. Welcome in. Edward Osovich, George Stoya here from the Soonerscoop.com studios. Welcome back to the Soonerscoop.com YouTube channel. Went out to practice on Tuesday, I guess mid-evening, and then obviously talked to some of the players. John Mateer, certainly Kendel Dolby, as well as Gentry Williams, who we're going to highlight in this practice report. George, welcome in. How'd you think the viewing went yesterday? We talked about it a little bit on the unofficial 40 this afternoon.
Yeah, not a whole lot of new information to glean from, but, always nice to go out there and spend some time in some different spots. I know I went over and spent a lot of time watching the receivers because I just haven't been able to see them, especially when they're out on the practice fields. It's kind of hard to get over there, but, spent some time over there and got to see Giovanni Gibson and Isaiah Satania and John Mateer obviously throw some balls, but it's one of those things about spring practice and especially just going out there and viewing is there's not a whole lot you can take away about the third or fourth time you get to go out. We love going out there, but when it becomes this far into it, it's like, okay, well, we've kind of seen all this.
And yesterday was kind of one of those days. Obviously, Oklahoma coming back from spring break. It was more of a reintroduction, if you will, to the practice schedule. But Oklahoma did wrap up at 6th practice, and afterwards we did talk to John Mateer. First time that we had talked to him since, I guess, the introductory press conference, if you will, with John. But certainly seems like things are starting to move. And we saw him, go down and throw with Giovanni Gibson as well as Deion Burks. It was good news that you saw Deion Burks doing a little bit more than we saw him the first couple times before spring break. But just kind of overall thoughts in talking to John Mateer on Tuesday.
He was awesome. We talked about it on the podcast, but just he's very comfortable in that setting. I would say he was even more comfortable than he was at his press conference.
Sure.
Kind of doing it scrum style. It felt, obviously a little bit more informal. Was joking around with us. It felt like every answer he would have a little joke in there. It reminded me somewhat of Dylan Gabriel, is what I told you. His sense of humor, very dry, kind of making almost like dad jokes, kind of in a way. But very good and very insightful. That was the one thing too, and you'll hear from him here in a second. But I thought he had some really good insight on just how the offense is coming along. Obviously, going up against the defense, and then just installing this thing and what's it going to look like for OU. I thought that he provided some really good insight into what it's looked like, through the first, 6 spring practices now.
It is something that, I think that we're going to talk about here through the rest of the spring is just the implementation of the offense and a knowledge of the offense, having run it for the last 3 years, and some pretty insightful stuff just in terms of knowing where wide receivers need to be and how wide receivers can change their route depending on what they see defensively, and who better to be able to tell them what to do than the quarterback.
Yeah, even on Tuesday, he was 30 minutes late to his media session because he was throwing extra passes with Isaiah Satania and working on some of those different route concepts. And in an air raid offense, there's a lot more of that. There's a lot more of route options. Guys can change where they're going based on what the defense is giving you. Whereas I don't think you saw as much creativity in the pass game a year ago or even under Jeff Lebby when he was the offensive coordinator. It's very different from what they were doing. So I think that's maybe been the hardest thing for some of these guys to grasp. And John Mateer, it's again, you have an offensive coordinator in Ben Arbuckle teaching it to you, but when you have a quarterback who can stay after practice, throw you some extra balls and say, hey, this is where you need to be on this route or whatever, I think is a huge help for Oklahoma. And also just being able to point to saying, hey, I had this success last year at Washington State, and I've seen the looks that we're going to get in this offense. This is how we need to attack them.
Certainly a familiarity with everything that they are doing offensively, and John Mateer talked about it on Tuesday night.
It's been going good, in my opinion. I think the competition of the defense and the camaraderie of the offense we're coming along pretty well. And I already know the offense, but I'm really proud of these guys that don't know it or didn't know it. They're really picking it up. Coach Arbuckle's doing a really good job with the culture that we need on the offense, and it's been good.
How much does that help you knowing the offense and being able to teach it? How have you gone about that?
It helps a lot. Me in my third year in this offense, there's things that the quarterback can do to really enhance it, and you see someone on defense, you can change it to what I need to do, and that's good. First year quarterbacks is tough. Like when I first learned it, I didn't know all the gadgets that we have, and I saw Cam do it, and then I got to do it last year and do it again this year, so that helps. And then teaching everybody, like I know how it's supposed to look, and then there's film on how it's supposed to look, and I know exactly what game to go to show a receiver what it's supposed to look like, so it's good.
Returning to your experience in this offense, what are some of the things that take longer for guys getting into that system to figure out that may even take through the summer and fall?
A lot of the reps. There's a lot of routes in this offense, and a lot of routes that the receivers can do different things based on the defense. And a lot of offenses is that way, but this one too. So getting those live reps is so important. That's why spring ball is so important at fall camp. 45 practices from start of spring ball to end of fall camp. And within those 45, it helps, and then that's why you have non-conference games at the beginning. But it's not going to be perfect right now, and in the summer we'll get the live looks doing 7-on-7 stuff, and it's going to be good. But those choice routes, option routes, that's what it takes.
Something that we've talked about, George, just in terms of what he's seeing every day from the defensive side of the football, too. Obviously, Oklahoma expected to be pretty damn good on the defensive side of the football. We've seen a number of those guys. We've talked about it here on the show. But he is going against a pretty damn good defense every day, and they're getting good looks.
Yeah, and that's one thing that is interesting, because when you have a coach like Brent Venables who's installed his defense now over several years, you have a lot of veteran players in the system. You might think, okay, you got a whole bunch of new guys on offense. They're trying to install a new offense with a new offensive coordinator, new quarterback, a whole bunch of new guys on the offensive line and wide receiver, tight end. So maybe you take it easy in practice. I don't think that's Brent Venables' style. It certainly sounds like they are going full go at the offense and even installing some new stuff on defense, maybe some new blitzes and different schemes and things like that. So I don't think they're taking it easy on Jean Mateer, and I think that's the right way to go about it, because look, in the SEC, you're going to face a lot of great defenses, with some really, freakish players and some different, blitz packages and whatever it is. So I think they're kind of throwing the kitchen sink at Jean Mateer in this offense right now, and I don't think that's a bad thing.
A little bit of a cat and mouse game with. I don't think that Brent Venables is taking it easy on Jean Mateer and or Ben Arbuckle as he gets his sixth practice.
Right, and this might be, I'm not saying it's the best defense Jean Mateer will face all year, because there's going to be some pretty damn good ones in the SEC, but it's going to be up there. I mean, when you talk about this defense and the guys they have coming back, they're going to probably be a top 20-ish type defense next year. So to go against that every single day in practice, I'm sure is beneficial.
Following practice on Tuesday night, Jean Mateer did talk about his first impressions of OU defensively and what he's seen every day, as well as being out there with Brent Venables. Super intense.
I mean, the scheme is different. Now, there was some intensity at Washington State. Now, I'll give them that. But yeah, it's intense. And like I said earlier, they can't make mistakes because this defense is going to bite you in the butt. And they move and they're blitzing and they're doing stuff, and it's fun. But intense is a good word. You put that real well. And Coach Venables was screaming behind my ear all the time, getting everybody right. So they're like, dang, dude, let him play ball, But it's good. It's fun. Yeah, he's intensity. And he's very smart. He knows exactly how it needs to be against every look, against every motion, and he's very smart, right? So sometimes he'll stand right next to me and say I'm like, dude, I need some room.
Mind games?
No. He's just he doesn't even realize. He's just looking at defense, and I'm just right there, dude, come on. But it's fun. I talk a little smack to him, and he's kind of zoned in. He doesn't even say it back, but it's fun.
Jimmy Green Beans yet?
What?
You met Jimmy Green Beans yet?
Who are you talking about?
So Brent hasn't tried to be the scout team quarterback yet?
That's his personality when he's
when
quarterback.
he's scout team quarterback,
his alter
Jimmy
ego.
Green
Yeah.
Beans.
Why did he pick that name?
I don't know.
It's always been like that.
That's the way he's always
I have not met him. No. And I don't want to meet him. No, I haven't.
Jean Mateer talking about getting quizzed on that's some inside baseball information and talking about Oklahoma football. So even though he has been here since January 13th, still getting to know the ins and outs of the OU football program. Jimmy Green Beans, obviously. Brent Venables when he runs scout team quarterback for Oklahoma.
I think he's retared.
Has he retired? Well, he said he retired last year, and then was it at the bowl game that we went out to practice and he was out there throwing it around?
Not because they probably didn't have enough quarterbacks, but
well, that might have been the San Antonio experience. I get those bowl games mixed up because we didn't go down to. We went the day before the bowl game last year for the Armed Forces Bowl. Never forget the Armed Forces Bowl. What a moment in Oklahoma football lore. We do want to talk about Gentry Williams. We want to talk about Kendel Dolby that I really enjoyed talking to yesterday as he makes his road to recovery from the just traumatic injury in the Tennessee game. But you saw the ball being thrown around. It's this one. Right here, the 2025 official OU Jordan Fly Elite football, the first time that they've had the Jordan brand logo on the football. And thank you to Big Game Football or Big Game Football Factory, as you can see behind us. BigGameUSA.com/Sooners if you are interested in getting the football that Oklahoma will be using in 2025. Signature Maize Crimson Jumpman and an interlocking OU logo, iconic symbols of innovation and performance, engineered Oklahoma quarterback specs. So they put it together. The football that Oklahoma is using is made right there by Big Game Football Factory. All you got to do is go to BigGameUSA.com/Sooners if you're interested to get the football as the weather gets nicer, be able to throw that thing around, and obviously getting ready for the football season. You're going to want to have that on game day when you come down to Dorman, or I guess travel with them. You can take your own football on the plane these days.
Tailgate.
I don't know if TSA will take it away from you, but just don't put a bomb in it. How about that? BigGameUSA.com/Sooners if you're interested. We did talk to Kendel Dolby yesterday.
Yep.
And, obviously he has a podcast now, so you can see why he's very, very good in front of a camera, very good explaining kind of what his road to recovery has been like, and certainly sounds like each day by day he's taken that next step.
Yeah, I mean, that's a tough injury. When you break your ankle like
it's one of the worst injuries that I've seen an OU football player have on the field.
Just awful. And he knew immediately when it happened too. But I think that for him, the mental hurdle of getting over that and fighting through rehab, all of those things, he talked about it, so I'll let him say it. But I think that was a real struggle at times for him. And so, I think he's starting to feel like himself a little bit now. He's not full go in spring camp. Sounds like the goal is to be by fall camp, maybe at least by the start of the season. So you're rooting for him. Easy guy to root for. One of the better interviews on the team, and it was good to finally talk to him because we really haven't chatted with him.
Sure.
I think it was like the second week of the season a year ago is the last time we spoke to him. So it was good to hear from him, and it sounds like he's in good spirits.
Here is Kendel Dolby talking about the road to recovery and the rehab process and getting back onto the field for Oklahoma this season.
We haven't talked to you in quite some time. How are you just recovering from your injury?
It's taking it day by day, doing what I need to do in the training room, really taking my time with it, really. So, yeah, that's really all I've been on.
I mean, we haven't even talked to you since the injury happened. Like, what was that like? Take us through. How tough was that on you?
It was tough. To be honest, it was more tough mentally than physically. Having an injury like that, you really go into a dark place. But now I'm kind of on the other side of it. I'm kind of changing my mindset, and I'm looking to grow from it, get healthy and be the best I can be once I get back from the injury.
You mentioned the mental part. What was helpful, especially after that injury happened, kind of getting you through the recovery process?
It's kind of like phases, you kind of have a phase where, why me? Why did this happen? You know what I'm saying? But I had a great support group, the coaching staff, my teammates, family, and just kind of going through that phase of just, kind of like, why did this happen to, okay, it happened, what am I going to do about it? And then going from what am I going to do about it to now I'm motivated. So now I'm on the other side of it where I'm motivated and I'm ready to get back from it.
Kendel, was there ever a part of you when you had that injury that you thought, am I ever going to be the same football player? Was that a mental hurdle you had?
Yeah, I'll be honest. When you have an injury like that, and that being, I've never had a serious injury, so that being my injury I never had, man, I'm gonna be honest. You kind of think in your head like, am I ever gonna play football again? And in that moment, I was thinking that. What I'm saying? There was so much going through my head, but like I said, it's all a part about the process of growing. It was why did this happen to me? How am I gonna shake back from it? And now it's like, oh no, I'm motivated. I'm doing everything I can so I can be like myself or be better. I think in my head I'm gonna be better, and I trust in God's plan, and I trust in the coaching staff. I trust in the training staff to get me back to be the player I was or even better. So
I remember when it happened that the whole team came over and talked to you. Who were some of the guys that maybe helped you through that whole process?
To be honest, all of them. Them being out there on the field with me, that, you know, every guy coming up and letting me know that they had my back. It wasn't one of those things like, oh, we're just doing that for the TV. Like once, you know, in the locker room the next week, those guys were telling me every day, like, man, we're here for you. Anything you need. They were just pouring into me heavy. So all those guys, to be honest.
Certainly somebody that, you know, when you're talking about this defense, I think that maybe people, and we talked about it right after the injury, after the Tennessee game, I remember talking about it on the Instant Reaction and then the weeks after, but it was hard to replace Kendel Dolby a year ago. And I think that just having him back out there, certainly one of the best football players on this team.
Yeah, and look, he's so versatile. Like he can cover. He was obviously really good coming off the edge. He's not the biggest guy, you know. Really, he's kind of a cornerback playing the position, but super physical and a guy that you can do a lot with. And that's why it's going to be really fascinating, Eddie, to see what that cheetah position looks like. We've heard, you know, Reggie Powers has played it quite a bit. You know, we've heard that Kendall Daniels is out there, Taylor Heim. Those are all bigger guys than Kendel Dolby. Would Kendall maybe move back out to corner where they maybe need some more depth and some experience that he can offer? But it's going to be interesting to see, you know, when he can get back fully healthy, what does that room look like? Because you're right, before his injury, he was arguably in that conversation of maybe their best player.
He had a couple of really good plays
he was awesome
in the Tennessee game before injury.
Yeah, so like he was a guy that you know, Brent Venables loves. I mean, he's raved about Kendel Dolby. You know, so I'm very interested to see what ends up happening there, and if he can be his old self, then he's a really good football player for Oklahoma.
We've talked about all the guys that are going to be coming in, and, you know, obviously Kendall Daniels or Marvin Jones Jr. as guys that are additions, but I guess in a way you could look at Kendel Dolby as another addition. Another one of those guys would be Gentry Williams. Obviously, he's had his own fair share of injuries, and I think that just getting him back, and I remember talking to Cortland Guillory was one of the guys that we talked to at the newcomer press conference or a media availability, just in terms of he is the guy when you're talking about a leader within the defensive back room.
Certainly. I you know, it wasn't just Cortland Guillory. I mean, it was just about every single player in that secondary talked about Gentry Williams being a leader, and so you love that part of it. Now it's about, can he stay on the field?
Sure.
Because we've seen it. He's a great player when he's healthy. I mean, he's easily an NFL type of player, has the size, the wingspan, all of that, the ball skills. He's great. But the problem is he hasn't been able to stay healthy. And I think it was it the Houston game last year that he didn't play in the first game?
Played in two games, Temple and Houston.
So he did play against Temple, but I don't think it was a whole lot.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah, and then he came in Houston. I think it was only 1 or 2 plays. And he got hurt, and it's that same shoulder that he's had a lot of issues with. So you hope that he can, you know, stay healthy for a full season, which he hasn't been able to do at Oklahoma. But that's where, you know, Oklahoma's probably got to look in the spring portal, see if they can't find a veteran guy. But I know there's a lot of people in the building rooting for Gentry.
And he talked about it on Tuesday, just the you know, the narrative that has surrounded his career at Oklahoma, not being able to be you know, on the field, stay healthy. Talked about that on Tuesday night with the media, Gentry Williams.
Just stay true to who I am, you know, straight trusting God, trusting Coach Villard, trusting Coach Venables, and trusting my teammates that I'm going to be who I am and show them every day. You know, I got to prove them and gain their trust every single day, and that's just what I want to do. You know, I've been through things, but God's got a plan for me, and I'm going to keep going. I feel really good, you know. Every day is a new challenge, but I feel amazing. I'm grateful for this opportunity. I feel great, and I'm ready for the season when it comes.
I'm sorry. Is RSJ kind of a guy you can look at too? He had that early shoulder problem, but you know, last year became the player that a lot of people thought he could be.
Now that's my brother. Words can't even explain how thankful I am on and off the field. Man, he's been there for me throughout everything in my life, and since being in college, he's been there every step of the way. So when I had this surgery, man, I remember when I came back to the house, I had surgery in Tulsa. When I came back, he was just screaming, G-Dub, G-Dub. So it was like a moment that we had, and just like seeing his success this year was amazing. I feel like I had success, so it was great.
Windy night on Tuesday in Norman. As you said, though, there's a lot of people that are going to be cheering for him, and you know, both him and Dolby both would be fantastic additions to a defense that has the makings, and when we go out there, it has the look of a really good group.
Yeah, look, I think you love the young talent, right? The Cortland Guillory's of the world. Malik Hawkins is somebody that we've heard a lot about, and even some of those sophomores, or Reggie Powers that I mentioned earlier, even, you know, Jaden Hardy, Michael Boganowski, you know, at safety. But you would love to have some guys that have played a lot of football and have some, veteranness to them, some leadership, that they've been in some big games. Gentry Williams has had some big moments in an Oklahoma uniform. And while you love an Eli Bowen, last year he's a little bit banged up right now, and you love some of those young guys that you've brought in as true freshmen, they're going to be good players. You would also love to have somebody that's been in some of those big moments, understand it, know the defense, right? These are guys, Gentry Williams and Kendel Dolby now, that have been in the system, been in the program for a few years now. I think that you certainly want to lean on those guys if they can be healthy.
If you want to watch all of the interviews that we did on Tuesday night, you can catch all of those on the SoonerScoop.com editorial page. We'll hit up stickball on Thursday with Bob Prisbill, the softball team, with a big series coming up on this weekend against Tennessee in Norman, and then obviously headed up I-35 today to take on Wichita, as well as the baseball team that is headed to Tuscaloosa, Alabama for a weekend series. I don't think I'm going to make this one, but I do want to go to a couple at some point here moving forward over the course of, obviously the spring and then on into the summer months, if you will. But good starts for the softball and the baseball team, obviously, and we will wrap everything up there. Make sure you hit up the SoonerScoop.com YouTube channel as well to hit on the unofficial 40. We recorded that with Josh McQuistion this afternoon. Get his thoughts on some recruiting as well as spring football. And I think that's going to do it for us, George.
Yeah.
For Mr. Stoya, I'm Mr. Radosevich. We'll see you right back here on the SoonerScoop.com YouTube channel.